What if it was Attack on Titan, but with vampires? Snarky, hefty, and shrewd vampires. That's what Seraph of the End is all about. It all begins on that day when Yūichiro and his family received a grim reminder. They lived at the mercy of the vampires and were disgraced to spend their entire lives in underground chambers. But before we talk about the events of the day, let's go back in time a little and see what led to the domination of vampires. You see, mysterious viruses born from the selfish acts of modern-day humans just envelopes the entire world. It is stated that any and all humans over the age of 13 were killed by the virus. That's when the vampires took the underage kids to the basements, and there they had no choice but to obey the vampires. That sounds way worse than it is. The thing is, vampires need blood, and since there are a lot of vampires for some reason, they need a lot of blood. That's where the children come in. They are used to secure a fresh supply of blood for the vampires, and in return they are given food in return, and that's pretty much it. Yūichiro and his siblings, including Michaela, were all a part of an orphanage before this outbreak happened. They were together then, and they are now together too. However, Yūichiro is like Eren. He does not like it. He does not like the lack of freedom. He does not like the idea that they are under the supervision of vampires. Michaela is older than him, plus he's also much more mature, so he tries to explain that all of the children in this facility are treated well. Unfortunately, this is not true, as right then they see two vampires step on the little hands of two children while they are drawing on the ground. Yūichiro is pissed. He tackles one of them, but of course the vampire doesn't even feel it. He grabs him by his shirt and then prepares to throw him down from a high enough spot. Michaela keeps apologizing, but they don't care. A human child is nothing to them. Coincidentally, a noble vampire shows up. His name is Freud, and he allows Yūichiro and Michaela to go back to their room. And it seems Michaela knows this noble vampire. When Yūichiro asks him about it, he reveals that he offers the noble his blood voluntarily, and in return his family gets special perks like better food and the sense of security we saw earlier. Yūichiro doesn't like it, even though Michaela tells him how it's impossible for them to win against the vampires. He still can't scratch that itch. He goes and lies down by himself. Soon a girl shows up. Her name is Akane, and putting it simply, she's a member of their family. Of course, she asks him why he isn't with Michaela. This leads to Yūichiro talking about the past, how when he arrived at the orphanage, Michaela approached him and told him that he's a part of their family now. He also reveals that he did have his own family, but his father was going to kill him. That's why he escaped. Later, Yūichiro returns to their chamber and he sees everyone eating delicious curry. He is curious about how they got such good food, and well, the answer is pretty simple. It's all thanks to Michaela. He brought Akane the ingredients and she decided to cook some curry. Yūichiro is the only one who knows what Michaela had to do for those ingredients, and so he keeps himself from eating. I guess this is his own way of showing concern for their situation. When Michaela returns home, he is oddly excited. They sit on the dining table, and when Yūichiro says he will be the one who gives his blood next time, Michaela just brings out a gun. He tells him that no, he will be the one who fights them instead. Michaela then also brings out a map. It is something he found while snooping around in Freud's mansion. That's it. It's time for them to escape from this prison of a life. Now Yūichiro is concerned because Michaela is ready to leave with everyone immediately. He also gives Yūichiro the gun. Michaela then assures him that they will be safe outside. The virus only affects people over the age of 13. Just like that, the others are woken up, and they are all ready to make their escape. They use the map to go through the blind spots and quickly reach the hallway that leads to the exit. As fate would have it, Freud pulls up right there and then. He saw it coming. He knew what Michaela was up to, and now it's like a picnic day for him. Freud sucks so much blood from one of the girls that she dies. This enrages Yūichiro. He pulls up right beside him and attempts to shoot him with the gun, but then again, dodging bullets is child's play for vampires. Then Michaela tells the others to turn toward the exit. Sadly, Freud kills them all in one swift motion. It's insane how outmatched they are. It's like watching a man step on instincts. They are nothing to Freud. This causes Michaela to act. He grabs the gun from Yūichiro and tries to distract Freud so that at least Yūichiro can escape. But I'm sure you can guess what happens next. Freud brutally impales our boy. His arm is also sent flying. Yūichiro catches the gun and out of pure spite, he shoots Freud right in the head. This knocks out the vampire. He then quickly tries to pick up Michaela. He's going to carry him outside, but Michaela tells him to leave without him. He says he can't just leave because he is his family. This pleases Michaela, but it's already over for him. In the end, the only one who makes it out alive is Yūichiro. He is the only one who survives. Once outside, he sees a quiet ghost town from a hill. It's snowing, but just when you think he's going to have to fend for himself, a group of 3, 1 guy and 2 girls appear. And yes, I'm pretty sure they're older than 13. The guy's name is Guren. He notices Yūichiro's powerful expression and asks him if he wants to fight the vampires. Without saying a word, Yūichiro gets closer and hugs him. He swears, downright vows that he will do whatever it takes to rid the world of vampires. He will kill every last one of them. Time continues to pass, and before you know it, it has already been 4 years since that day. Yūichiro goes to school with other teenagers. There are adults around as well, and he is a part of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Next, we see Yūichiro easily kill a demon creature with 1 slash of his sword. He is no longer powerless, but it's clear that he isn't satisfied either. What he wants is to kill vampires, but to do that, he needs to be a part of a special squad. We're talking about Moon Demon Academy. Guren has made him attend a normal school where most of the other students are civilians. He always has a classic main character demeanor in class. Well, let's just say he spends most of his time staring out of the window. Once again, he's staring when he begins to recall his first encounter with Guren 4 years ago. Back then, he did ask Guren why humans are still around in the outside world. Guren explains that the virus did kill humans over the age of 13, but it didn't kill all of them. Only 90%, which means 10% of all adults are still alive. He said that the vampires must have deceived the children to make them lose hope. Alright, so the teacher notices him spacing out and warns him that he's going to be expelled at this rate. This statement has an oddly positive and refreshing effect on Yūichiro. He gets up from his seat and tells the teacher that he will gladly accept suspension. Little did he know the girl sitting behind him is an army surveillance officer. Her name is Shinoa. She pokes him before he voluntarily gets himself expelled and tells him what's up. This leaves him with no choice but to calm down. When the class ends and everyone else leaves the classroom, Shinoa mentions how Guren told her that Yūichiro doesn't want to make friends with anyone, but she then also adds that this is because he's too scared of losing them. However, he has to start getting along with people, otherwise good luck getting accepted in Guren's unit. This annoys him, so he leaves the classroom. Shinoa follows him because, well, it's her job. She is surveilling him after all. When they are in the locker area, they see a timid student named Yūichi getting cornered and bullied by 3 unpleasant-looking guys. Yūichiro tries to mind his own business because in his mind, he is supposed to be the indifferent guy who doesn't care, but he ends up stepping in after all. He was ready to beat the absolute snot out of all 3 of them, just permanently traumatize them, but Shinoa looks him in the eye and tells him that beating up normal people is a no-go as well. This surprises and shocks Yūichiro, and while he's shocked, the bully punches him in the face. This leads to Yūichi and Yūichiro both becoming errand boys for the bullies. Still, Yūichiro asks why he was getting bullied in the first place. Turns out he was actually trying to become friends with the main bully. His name is Yamanaka, and he is somehow a candidate for the vampire extermination unit. Alright, so why was he trying to become friends with Yamanaka? It's because his sister was killed by a vampire when he was little. He was hiding under the bed and she protected him by keeping him hidden. Since then, he has made it his life goal to become a soldier as well. And guys, let's just say he's going about it in the best way he knows how. Yūichiro is sympathetic, but he's also pissed that a clown like Yamanaka is a candidate for the vampire squad when he himself is not. Now, before this conversation could go anywhere else, there is a sudden explosion in the building. It is announced that a vampire has escaped, and so they all must get to safety immediately. Though, as you may expect, Yūichiro ignores the warning, gets his gun and sword from the locker, and goes directly to the source of the explosion. He's going to kill the vampire and prove himself. That's how he will make Guren acknowledge him. Luckily, he finds the vampire quickly enough. She was in a classroom. Believe it or not, that clown Yamanaka is in the classroom as well. He's obviously peeing his pants, just scared senseless. But Yūichiro isn't like him. He charges straight at the vampire and slices her arm off. He continues to slice her all over her body, but it doesn't take Yūichiro long to realize that it's not enough. She keeps on regenerating. This is where Yūichiro asks Yamanaka to help him with this, considering how he is a candidate for the vampire squad and all. But of course, it turns out Yamanaka was lying to Yūichi. He is not a candidate. He is just a scared little pussy. The only time he gets a taste of power is while bullying timid yet bright kids like Yūichi. Whatever, Yūichiro stays strong. There is also another person in the classroom. She's lying on the teacher's desk, mostly unconscious. When a vampire tries to suck her blood, another student appears and tackles her. It's our timid boy Yūichi. The tackle is not very effective though, but at least he saves the girl. Yūichiro is impressed by Yūichi's courage. The errand boy is now tackling vampires. How about that? The fight returns to just Yūichiro and the vampire, but it does not get any easier for our boy. He takes out the gun and tries to shoot her, but not enough. She eventually grabs his neck and jumps out of the building with him. He slams on the ground, but still manages to impale her. He manages to stop her from killing him, but she's still a threat. Fortunately, Gurren pulls up with his gang and kills the vampire like she's nothing. And how did he do that so casually? It's revealed that you can't kill vampires using normal weapons. Bullets and swords won't work unless they're cursed. Yes, that's right, what you need is a cursed weapon. Anyway, Yūichiro tells Gurren to let him into the gang. He wants to kill vampires too, but Gurren tells him the same thing as Shinoa. First, he needs to start by making friends. Gurren states that he doesn't like people who don't understand teamwork. He's not letting Yūichiro join until he can understand something so simple. Though Shinoa teases Gurren by mentioning how Gurren can't work in teams either. Then we see Yoichi jump straight from a fence and land into Yūichiro. His jump causes our boy to faint, but isn't that what Gurren wanted to see? Shinoa reminds him that he must keep his promise and let Yūichiro in. After all, he's managed to make a friend, a genuine one at that. As for Yūichiro, while he's unconscious, he sees Michaela and the others from his family. This is serious. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees them. And this time, they are happy for him because he finally made a friend. When our boy opens his eyes in the real world, he is already in an infirmary. Yoichi is by his side and Shinoa is there as well. She gives him the good news. It took 4 years, but not only has Gurren acknowledged him, he has also been accepted into the Moon Demon Company. Well, it's about time Yūichiro gets a chance to slay some vampires. It'll be much better for him than therapy anyway. Anyways, it looks like the bullies, Yamanaka and his 2 friends, are still relevant. We see them snooping around a rather sketchy-looking room. I mean, it's full of spell tags. What are they even doing here? Luckily, Yamanaka has grown a brain cell or 2 by now. He tells his friends that they should leave, but before they can leave, the door begins to open. Now, remember the girl Yoichi and Yūichiro saved from the vampire? She gives him a love letter at the rooftop. She runs away before he can take a look at the letter or even respond. Shinoa then shows up and tells him that it's time for training. Yūichiro brings out his sword, all excited. Shinoa, on the other hand, shows him a key. She spins it, which in turn summons a devil, who immediately turns into a massive sight. Yūichiro tries to fight her with his sword, but he just isn't on the same level. She tells him the same thing Gurren said earlier. He'd have to make a contract with the devil. That's how he'd also get a cursed weapon. Later, Yamanaka approaches Yūichiro, Yoichi, and Shinoa. He explains that his friend Yuji was taken into an underground chamber, and that's the last they heard from him. Shinoa explains that a demon resides there, which means their friend Yuji has already been possessed by him. Our gang goes to the chamber and confronts Yuji. He's holding a massive axe. Instinctively, Yūichiro gets closer. He not only saves Yuji, but he also goes after the axe with the intention of making a contract with the devil. When the conditions for making a contract come together, Yūichiro finds himself in a dream. It's Michaela, and he propels Yūichiro to seek vengeance. Well, Yūichiro manages to break free of whatever trick the devil was playing on him. Michaela would never act like that anyway. He opens his eyes and Shinoa commends him for how he handled the situation. Going back to the vampire settlement, Michaela is actually still alive. He saves some humans from random demons and then tells them that they must offer their blood, which is totally cool with the humans. Heck, one of the girls shows her neck and tells her to just take it. This is where Michaela reveals what happened on the day 4 years ago. After Yūichiro fled the scene, a girl appeared. We're talking about the queen of vampires, the lady named Curl. She tasted Michaela's blood, liked it, and then gave him a big, smoochy kiss on the mouth. Relax, she looked underage as well. The purpose of the kiss was to transfer her blood to him, which in turn resulted in him becoming a vampire as well. He's absurdly strong too. It's all thanks to the queen's blood. By the way, the noble who was shot by Yūichiro is also totally fine as expected. Michaela has been serving the queen since then, but you bet he really wants to see Yūichiro. Speaking of Yūichiro, he and Yoichi start attending a new classroom. There they also meet Shiho Kimizuki. He is a bit stuck up, the same kind of pain in the ass as Yūichiro. Soon, it's the day of the aptitude test. Yūichiro and Shiho were fighting giant demon puppets for the sake of the test when Shiho urgently had to leave because of his sister. His sister's name is Mirai and she has a condition which was caused by a virus. He genuinely cares for her so much that Gurren explicitly told him to not go after the strongest cursed weapon just for the sake of finding a cure. It'll self-destruct. The vampire nobles then have a conference where they discuss the Japanese Imperial Army's vampire extermination unit. Plus, they are also attempting to complete something called Seraph of the End. It'll be an invincible force of nature, and for what it's worth, it's also what caused the virus outbreak 4 years ago. So in the wake of this, the vampire decide to wage war on the Japanese Imperial Army. Back to Yūichiro, they are in the classroom. Gurren takes out his sword, which immediately floods the classroom with a powerful demonic aura. It's like a conqueror's haki from One Piece. Most of the students in the classroom collapse. Shinoa and Yoichi are easily able to handle it though. Yūichiro and Shiho have a harder time, but nothing crazy. These 4 are then led to a special room where they can then get their own cursed gears. It's not going to be easy. They will have to go toe-to-toe and outdo the demons that reside in the cursed gears. Should they fail, they will suffer a fate worse than death. Their souls will be taken, and they will turn into mindless monsters. Very well then, since Shinoa already has her cursed weapon. It's just Yūichiro, Shiho, and Yūichi who will be taking a shot at this. Yūichiro goes and picks a sword, and the battle for supremacy with the demon begins immediately. The demon also imitates Michaela. Yūichiro knows what's going on. He tells the demon to just stop playing games and give him power so that he can get revenge on the vampires. The demon plays it like a recruiter. He asks him why he wants revenge. Yūichiro starts talking about what happened. Believe it or not, the demon is much more laid back than you'd think. He not only gives him his power, he also tells Yūichiro that there is something inside of him that is definitely not human. There is likely a high chance that somebody did experiments on him. Yūichiro is not sure what to think of this, so the demon just tells him not to trust the humans so much. As for his demon's name, it's Asurama. When Yūichiro wakes up, he sees Shiho is already done. Yūichi is not done though. We see what's going on. The demon is pretending to be his sister. It's playing mind games with him, so much so that Yūichi loses control over his conscience. Gurren orders both Yūichiro and Shiho to kill him because their friend is now possessed. Still, Yūichiro doesn't want to do it. He throws away his sword. Shiho also refuses to follow Gurren's command. They don't want to kill their friend. Even when Yūichi's demon literally throws an arrow at Yūichiro, he still believes in him. Gurren tells Yūichi to snap out of it, or he will end up killing his own friends. And sure enough, Yūichi finally snaps out. The arrow misses Yūichiro, and that's that. All 3 of them succeed in forming a contract with demons. All 3 of them now have cursed weapons. Yūichi runs up to Yūichiro and gives him a big hug. Gurren then states that he did well, and how he'll have them serving at the front lines from here on out. Soon it's time for their first mission. Gurren introduces them to a tiny-looking girl named Mitsuba. She is going to be their mentor on the mission, a guide, if you will. Turns out she's been serving in the vampire extermination squad since she was 13. Well, how old is she now? 13 and a half? Nah, she's actually the same age as our main characters. She is 16. Alright, so what is their mission? There is a vampire hideout in Harajuku, and their job is to wipe them out. Just destroy it. First, they are going to destroy the site, and then they are supposed to join the vampire extermination squad in Shinjuku. It's going to be a long and hard day, that's for sure. They soon find the hideout. There are plenty of humans inside. I guess you call them livestock. They're being treated poorer than actual livestock, though. Yūichiro recalls how he used to be in a similar place in the past. They then notice a vampire, and Yūichiro kills it just as soon as they notice it. Mitsuba is pleasantly surprised by his strength. She ends up getting grabbed by another vampire, a much stronger one, and she clearly needs help. Wait, what's this? Is she crying? Isn't she supposed to be their mentor? What's going on? Anyways, Yūichi saves her by killing the vampire, and all of them then get rid of all the vampires who were there at the site. It's a total wash. When they're done, all the humans thank them for their service, but they didn't have any time to waste on accepting gratitude. It's time to join the others, Shinjuku. They are on the way when another vampire shows up. This one is a noble named Crowley. He is simply too strong. They all try to get a piece of them, but they can't do anything. Shinoa almost loses her life, but the noble wasn't even trying. Yūichi saves her and Crowley's kind of impressed by him. Not bad for a human, or so he says. It was going to get really ugly pretty fast, but the 2 more vampire nobles show up. It's a couple of beautiful ladies who tell Crowley that his presence is required on the front lines. They just leave. Yūichi and the rest get to live another day, but it goes without saying that they now know how absurdly outmatched they are against a noble, especially a powerhouse like Crowley. Next, let's see what's going on at Shinjuku. It's a full-on war between the vampires and the Imperial Japanese Army. The soldiers at the wall have done a good job keeping the vampires at bay, but then the vampires crash a cargo plane into the wall, and that's about it. By this point, Yūichiro and the others have also arrived. They quickly lend the army a hand by going after vampires. Yūichi fires his arrows and shoots down the vampire helicopters as well. Shinoa's squad, which is our gang, is then supposed to join Gurren's squad at the literal front lines. Now, as they are on their way there, Shinoa gives everyone special pills that can boost their strength by 1.5. The more pills taken, the more the effect would compound. Of course, there are downsides. First, it would only last for 15 minutes. Once that time is up, they will lose all their strength and actually go below baseline. Second, if they use more than 1 pill, death would be inevitable. Yep, gotta be careful with these pills. Meanwhile, at the front lines of the war between humans and vampires, we see Gurren fighting a certain someone. He is fighting Michaela. It seems Michaela is leading the troops. It's a pretty even fight. Gurren also manages to place a spell tag on Michaela's head. That was going to be a literal mind-blowing moment, but it didn't work. It was a prank. Guden was trying to distract him as he succeeded. The distraction allowed Guden's teammate enough time to trap him with her kunai knives, but this happened to be another diversion. When Michaela braces himself for the attack, Guden pulls up from behind with a weird smug on his face. He's going to impale Michaela, but Freud shows up right between them and stops him. Freud easily sends him flying through stuff. The difference in physical strength between the humans and the demons is astonishing to say the least. Guden is still in the game though. He brings out his pills and takes one, but Michaela on the other hand also increases his powers. He does it by lending his weapon more of his blood. Then, right when Yūichiro and the others arrive, Guden can be seen getting stabbed through the chest by Michaela. Seeing Guden getting impaled, something triggers inside of Yūichiro. He dashes forward, and it isn't until he has stabbed Michaela through the chest that he realizes who they're dealing with. It's his brother, Michaela. Heck, the reason Michaela let himself get hit is because he was too shocked to see Yūichiro. It's a sad and bittersweet situation. Tears start running down his cheeks. For the time being, he lets Michaela live instead of killing him. Of course he does. He's his only family left in the world. This causes Guden to punch him in the face, but Yūichiro is too emotionally wounded to argue. He simply replies that Michaela is his own family. Now Crowley and his two beautiful ladies from before also enter the chat. It's over. Guden can see it. No way are they going to win against so many nobles. He jumps forth into battle to distract the nobles so that everyone else can retreat. But Crowley and the others aren't in the mood to let Yūichiro and the gang escape. Frederick grabs Yūichiro's shoulder and tries to have a taste of his blood, but Michaela slices off his arm and escapes with Yūichiro. Once they are by themselves on an empty roof of an abandoned gas station, Michaela talks. He tells Yūichiro that the humans are not his friends. They are only using him. Yūichiro then hears Yūichi call out Shinoa's name. This causes Yūichiro to turn around. He's going to go and help, but Michaela tells him to not look back. It was too much. Everything that was happening in that moment was too much for Yūichiro. What is he supposed to do? What can he even do? Why is his brother telling him to not trust humans? Suddenly, we see light disappear from Yūichiro's eyes. They turn red, and they start dripping with blood. Subsequently, Asuramaru tells Yūichiro's conscience that the thing inside of him is about to go berserk. He's absolutely correct. When we see Yūichiro in the next scene, there's no trace of reason. He's a monster, a dead man walking, the greatest predator on the battlefield. Shinoa looks at him in horror, while Guden sort of smiles when he sees Yūichiro transformed like that. Yeah, he definitely knows something. It's just as Asarumaru and Michaela said, Yūichiro better be careful of the humans too. But as far as Yūichiro's current state goes, he's no longer Yūichiro. He's a monster. Even an absolute powerhouse like Crowley gets his ass handed to him by Yūichiro. That is the level of strength we're talking about. But the thing is, he's not aware of what's going on. After fighting Crowley for a few moments, he turns his attention towards Shinoa. Fortunately, Michaela shows up at the very last instance and he shields Shinoa with his own body. He just couldn't allow his brother to kill his friend like that. Shinoa then gets up and hugs Yūichiro. He wants him to revert back to normal at once. Well, I don't know how to explain it, but it works. Yūichiro regains a sense of self, but collapses shortly after. Reinforcements arrive for the vampire extermination squad, and as for the vampires themselves, they call it a day and go home. In the following days, when Shinoa asks Guden about what happened to Yūichiro, he reveals that he is a result of an experiment called the Seraph of the End. The transformation that we saw was an incomplete version of Seraph of the End. Later, Shinoa visits Yūichiro when he wakes up after 7 days. She explains that he lost consciousness. The reinforcements arrived, and the day ended on a good note. Yes, she didn't tell him anything about how he went berserk and almost killed her. She also tells him that Michaela is with the vampires, all safe and sound. The story of the first core ends with him promising that he will reunite with Michaela. Wait, what was our boy's response to that girl's love letter? And well, that's about it for this recap, guys. Let me know what you guys think of the story so far. There is a sequel, so if you want us to continue recapping this brilliant story, make sure to like, subscribe, and fill that comment section with your silly thoughts.